In this lesson, we're going to look at item creation. After this lesson, you should be able to identify the setup steps for creating an item, explain lifecycle phases in root item class. You'll have a better understanding of some of the item terminology, and we're going to walk through the item creation process. Things you need to do before you start trying to create items. Number one is you need to have an organization defined. So your item organization. Units of measure need to be defined. You need to have at least one life cycle available, and you need to configure the default item class. All items belong to the root item class, and that is the minimum you have to set up for item classes. And if you take the product management class, you'll find you can create as many as you need. So you might have asked yourself, what is a life cycle and what are its phases? Well, life cycle phases help you manage the life cycle of an item, from design, prototype, production, obsolete, as some examples. Each of the phases represent some of the tasks and deliverables that need to be done before the item is ready to go to the next step. So we may figure out the design, put in the prototype, build the prototypes, I make some changes, and then once it's ready for release, then we can move it to production or active, and then we can build it, sell it, plan it, pick, pack, ship it. And at the end of its life, we can have one or more phases to phase it out. And once it's obsolete, then basically we've told the system we don't plan on planning it, carrying it, building it, selling it. You may have another one in their end of life. If your business process, you have to support an item for a certain duration. And if you look back, think of the big picture, there's airframes out there that the military have had in service for years and years and years. There's aircraft, multiple airlines that have been in service for many years. So those have long life cycle processes. And then there's other things like computer chips. When was the last time you saw a 286 chip? So their life cycles were relatively short because they get replaced rapidly. To create a life cycle, go into the functional setup manager, go to life cycle phases, and you can leverage what is already in there. You can add to the list. Just click on the add icon, add a sequence, phase name, phase code, and select the phase type. The phase type will correspond to the seeded phases within the system. Once you've created it, the lifecycle phases can be associated to an item class, and the items in the item class can be assigned to any lifecycle phase associated with that item class. Before you create and import items, you must create lifecycle phases and assign them to your item classes. When an item is assigned to a lifecycle phase, that phase is visible as part of the item attributes. The item structure lifecycle phases are used to control specific processes. The default item class provides a place to create items. It's already in the system. It's called the root item class. If you're using Product Hub, product management, you can create additional item classes. They will be children of the root item class, but everybody has access to the root item class. And depending on what you license, you may see different tasks there. Item terminology. When we look at the items represent a product or a service that you're going to sell, plan, transact, maybe a resource you're going to make. And additional services. Each item that you create has several standard operational attributes that determine the behavior of the item with respect to various functions, like how it's going to be managed in inventory. Is it going to be lot controlled, locator controlled, serialized, date expiration needs to be tracked, purchasing, how it's going to be bought, or you're going to build it. So there's a lot of characteristics that derive how you're going to plan it, cost it, all those fun things. Then you can create additional attributes for the item if your business requires that. You can set up attributes to be required. You can default values in. You can associate them to a value set. You can have the system calculate them depending on what you have licensed. You can make them read-only. You can have them hidden. You can deactivate and activate the attributes that you've created. Remember previously we talked about descriptive flex fields and extensible flex fields. So those are how we create additional attribution for the item that's not already in there. Additionally, you may see product structure, or a lot of us, that's the bill of material. Not everybody builds things, so you could have a structure of things that go together that you may package up and send to a customer. So that's why the nomenclature changed a while back. But it's basically what goes into what. So in this case, we have two sub-assemblies going into the assembly, and there's a case that gets picked, packed, and shipped and becomes the end item. Some additional terminology. The packaging string expresses the hierarchy of units in a shared unit of measure class used to package an item. For example, we have the gloves. So one glove is, we generally have a pair of gloves. We have one for each hand. In this case, we have a box with 120. There's 24 in a carton, and we can have 24 cartons in a case. So you could have a packaging string of 120 each, 24 box, 16 cartons in one case. And you can do that with pallets or whatever makes good sense. Additionally, you need to understand what item revisions are. And item revisions are a way to track slight changes in the configuration of an item. So as things progress, maybe you have things go obsolete, or technology has improved, so you have something that replaces something else. So you can track the revisions, you can plan, build, sell, buy based on the different revision codes. Item associations let you associate your items to different business objects, like different organizations. So I'm going to associate this to 3 organizations where I'm going to use it. It could be a supplier item or specific to a supplier site. Item classes provide classification hierarchy to logically group products sharing similar characteristics to create a product taxonomy. And those similar characteristics are probably going to be captured as attributes for the item. The item catalog is a hierarchy that categorizes products belonging to similar product families. And then the last one is trading partner items. This represents products from external parties such as manufacturers, customers, or competitors. So let's talk a little bit more about the packaging string. So when you define the item on the create item, you can create a packaging type, or a pack type for short, and you're basically designing a little hierarchy. So you can define your packaging strings in the product information work area when you create the item or manage items. When you define the packaging string, you can select the unit to use as you define the hierarchy. So let's go take a look at what that means. Now let's take a closer look at item attributes. In the main attributes area, we have the general information about the item, and it's pretty much what you're going to find in most item masters with the item number description. There's a long description, the status of the item, the life cycle of the item, the user item type, the approval status, revision item class, and the unit to measure. You'll find the operational attributes. Again, those are the ones that control what the item is going to do downstream in procurement, in inventory, how you're going to plan it. Are you going to make it, buy it? Are you going to track the lot number, serial number, shelf life, things, whether you're going to ship it? Is it a subscription? There's the additional attributes, which again are those extensible flex fields and descriptive flex fields. So they give you the ability to capture additional information about the item. If you use extensible, then you can tie that to your item classes and capture the additional attribution that you need to. And finally, the transactional attributes, which you can capture at the time of the sales order or service. So if you're doing service, you could pick up the VIN number from a vehicle. If you wanted to monogram or put initials on something, you could capture that from the sales order and then pass that along to downstream applications like manufacturing. Next up is item creation. When we create items, we can define them a couple of different ways, a couple of different places. For example, from the Manage Items search page, you can hit the little plus and create a new item, or you can do it right from the taskbar and create a new item. When you're defining items, it is not a difficult task. You need the name, description, populate the attributes, and then tell the system where you're going to use the item. Simplest way to populate attributes is to apply a template, and the template has predefined attribution on it for specific item types. You can also copy from existing items if you're adding another item in a line item with minor changes, and the system does do validation as part of the process. You can add attachments. So add an attachment can be pretty much anything you can save to your desktop. So Word docs, spreadsheet, images, plus you can link it out to a manufacturer's site, if that makes sense. You can create a single item from this page or multiple items. When you do a single item, remember it's going to go into the item master. That's the org it's going to be assigned to. You can define the item structure, add it to additional orgs where you're going to be buying it, receiving it, shipping it, building it, whatever the case might be for the item. You can create item relationships if it's related to other items, if it supersedes something. You can also flag it as where you're buying it from, like a manufacturer's part number. There's a ton of information you can capture. You can also create items in a multiple form where you can add the part number and the description, easy for me to say, if you're manually creating that information. I mean, this looks more like a little spreadsheet when you're populating the new items. I mentioned you can copy from existing items. So when you do the copy, you can have it pull over the item attributes, relationships, structure information, which is bill of material, where it's been assigned to different inventory orgs and any structures. You can also create a structure one place and share it across multiple organizations, and that is called a common structure because all orgs are going to use that common structure. And then when you update the common, it'll push the changes out to all the other orgs. So now we have a practice to create an item, but before we go out there, we have looked at the steps necessary to set up items. We talked about the life cycle, the root item class, some of the terminology, and we just walk through some of the steps to create an item. So let's go create some items.